This podcast is the second of 3 podcasts on introducing our course on political science research methods, and focuses on the initial steps of the scientific method. The scientific method is an approach to thinking, testing, and learning. It is the standard by which we say that political science is a science. There are 3 principles to the scientific method. The first is that all ideas should be tested, instead of being accepted as fact. We don't say, "I feel," or "in my opinion." Instead, we say, "based on an objective view of the facts." The second principle is that criticism is encouraged. Here, we mean that criticism is constant reevaluation of conclusions that we make from the scientific method. For instance, we may establish that the state of the economy is important to understand voting choice for candidates in a presidential election, but it is likely to be more important in some elections than in others, and perhaps in different ways. One cycle it's all about inflation, and in another election cycle the focus is on economic growth. Finally, we need to remain humble. All of our knowledge is tentative and subject to changing times and places. What matters in the U.S. today may not matter in Canada in 5 years' time, or at all. We begin the steps to the scientific method. The first step we have been focusing on: ask a research question. We can have a great topic, but we cannot find something to study. If we cannot find something to study closely, something that has variation to be explained, then we have not been able to turn the topic into an effective dependent variable to be explained. Provided that we have accomplished those tasks, we then need to ask ourselves why we see variations in the dependent variable. Here is a tangible example. On February 24th, 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine. This is a good research topic for political scientists, especially international relations scholars. But we need to adjust the topic a bit for us to study it scientifically. We need variation, in particular, so we need to change the topic to Russia invading or not invading other countries. Thus, our dependent variable becomes invasion, measured as did Russia invade or not invade? The research question then is broadened to say, why does Russia invade some countries but not others? Let me note right here 2 thoughts before continuing. First, for specific research design strategies, the steps that I will outline as steps 2 through 5 either are distinct steps or they can be combined. It depends on the research topic, but both ways work. Second, there will be more on this topic as we proceed. Step 2 is the theoretical step. It is the explanation as to why we see variation in the dependent variable. For that explanation to work, we need to identify an independent variable whose activity plausibly can account for why the dependent variable varies in the way that it varies. We need to be able to describe and explain how changes in the independent variable lead to changes in the dependent variable. What will prove helpful to us is to use previous research on a research topic to help us develop better theories. Let's go back to our research question. Why does Russia invade some countries but not others? The dependent variable, again, is invasion, and measured as did Russia invade or not invade. Let's propose an independent variable that could influence Russia's decision to invade. Whether or not the country that could be invaded is a member of NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Alliance, designed to protect its 31 members. Let me note that Sweden will become NATO's 32nd member shortly, as it sought membership after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Russia is far less likely to invade a NATO member due to the strength of NATO and the threat of direct war with the United States than if it invaded a non-NATO member. Now, why is this? The strength of NATO is in its numbers, and Russia would thus be attacking several substantial military forces at once. Russia would most likely lose any war with NATO, so it won't invade a NATO member. It would be far easier for Russia to defeat a non-NATO member, so the likelihood of invading a country like Ukraine rises under this theory. We then move to the hypothesis development stage. A hypothesis is very specific, a one-sentence statement that is derived from our model of how the independent variable relates to the dependent variable and influences the dependent variable. A hypothesis must be testable, and we must be able to observe the results of the test. An example of a hypothesis is Russia is more likely to invade non-NATO countries than NATO countries. Our next podcast will focus on the research design and data collection stages of the scientific method.